know that over the last several months, I've lost a lot of things, and one of them has been my smile. And I know it doesn't mean a whole lot to everybody else, but I know that over the last several months, I've lost a lot of things, and one of them is. And I have to go back and I have to find my smile because somewhere along the line, I lost it, and I don't care really. I don't care if it's unpopular. I don't care if people want to make fun of me because I'm an emotional guy. But this is all I've ever wanted to do, and over the last year I got to do it. And whether you like me or not, I just want to tell you that last year was the most wonderful year of my life. And if I never get to do it again, it'll be okay because I got to live one full year as being the number one guy in this business. And
welcome everyone. Welcome again to the Heartbreak Heel Turn. As you all know, this show is live, so sometimes technical difficulties are a part of the show, but that's what we love because it's never really rehearsed. It's more everything is on the fly. That was a segment from Raw Thursday show back in early 1997 of my idol Shawn Michaels giving up his WWF title after a knee injury that came out of nowhere. Why do I play that at the beginning of my podcast? Well, to say the least, I'm starting a new segment on this podcast called Time Machine, more specifically, the Heartbreak Time Machine. And this new segment will involve me dissecting episodes of Raw from the past. Now, I've been watching the old Raw episodes for the past couple years, and I started with after WrestleMania 11 in 1995, and I continued, and now I'm in 1997. So this is where I am currently. So this is where I'm gonna start off with you guys. Now the segment isn't gonna start at the beginning. The beginning, as we all know, we'll start with what's going on right now because that's what everybody wants to know. So, but again, welcome to the Heartbreak Heel Turn. This is your host, good-looking, wonderful as always, Dr. Heartbreak. Currently, I am, getting this whole thing ready. I have a lot to talk about today. Raw, Smackdown, NXT, and a couple other things that are very important. So we can get right to it. Our first segment today we're going to talk about is Monday Night Raw. And it was live this week from Phoenix, Arizona. And I guess I'll just start off with this little snippet.
All the dudes chanting that I can't wrestle, calm down, relax, take a sip of your beer and shut your mouth.
That was the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns. This episode of Raw was the episode after Money in the Bank 2016. We leave you off with telling you that I hope you don't get used to listening to Roman Reigns' voice because it's the last time you're going to be hearing him for half an hour, for about 30 days, because he is suspended. Now, Roman Reigns was suspended for violating the drug wellness policy of WWE, and whether it was steroids or human growth hormone hasn't been specified by the company, and if I were them, I wouldn't specify. But at the end of the day, I think, him being gone for 30 days is a big blow. He was supposed to be the guy, the man, and it makes a lot of sense now why he lost so cleanly, well, relatively cleanly to Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank, because they didn't see him in the near future being the champion because he was going to get suspended, because word out is that he knew that they knew that he had violated the policy going into the pay-per-view. But he had to obviously do the match. So he did the match, and then they suspended him after the match was over. Or after that segment on Monday Night Raw. Now, what's interesting about the suspension is that on Raw, they announced at the very end of Raw that there will be a triple threat match for the WWE World Heavyweight title that Dean Ambrose got at Money in the Bank between Seth Rollins, the champion Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns. And obviously, you can see the conflict there because how can Roman Reigns be in a match when he's suspended for 30 days? Well, luckily for WWE, the next pay per view coming up, Battleground, is actually after his suspension. So he will be suspended for 30 days, but he can actually make it back in time for the pay per view. So they're lucky with that, but I don't know if they're going to continue to keep him in this main event match with the fact that he's been suspended for 30 days. I don't know what the dynamic is going to be with that. But if I were them, I would take him out. But the way it's looking right now, as I'm recording this podcast, it sounds like they're just going to wait out the suspension and then obviously bring him back for the main event of that pay-per-view. So whatever plans they had haven't really been completely turned upside down because of the suspension. So all in all, future plans, the suspension isn't a big deal. But I think in the eyes of the fans, it obviously gives you, a different look when you see Roman Reigns now. Since we don't know exactly what it is that he was suspended for, like what substance he did take, we're always going to speculate. And, the fact steroids is a big thing in sports entertainment, any kind of sport. So when you violate a drug policy, you always have that asterisk next to your name after that. Just look at a guy like Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, people like that, just to name a few. So, we're always going to be looking at Roman Reigns differently after this. So to see how they book him going forward, it's going to be very interesting. I think that the suspension helps set him up for a heel turn down the road because, obviously the fans are already against him. Now with this suspension, people are going to be even more against him because he broke the rules. So, to me, that just says, oh, he's a bad guy to me. And hopefully that's what the company sees because I don't see him getting cheered much anymore when he returns from the suspension. So they might as well just turn him. I don't know. I mean, when I first heard about it, I thought it was a work. I thought it was something that wasn't legitimate. Like he didn't really get suspended. They suspended him because they wanted to get heat on him and have people, question his athleticism. Because one thing we couldn't question with Roman Reigns was his athletic ability and his drive to work hard. But now we can. So on top of everything that we already don't like about him, with this on top of it, I think it's just a perfect cocktail to turn him heel. And I think that the situation is very unique in his case, and I hope that that's what they decide to do because it'd be very cool to see that. So moving forward, we want to talk about Monday Night Raw. Like I said, it was in Phoenix. They started out the show with Dean coming out and just kind of rejoicing in his victory, winning the WWE World Heavyweight title. It was very cool to see him win. Obviously a lot of fans were happy that he won. After so-and-so time that he spent talking, Roman Reigns comes out and basically asks for a rematch. In between that, the little snippet that I played for you, him, getting angry at the fans for saying he can't wrestle. It's a shame to see a guy like Roman Reigns who's very polarizing. I can say this as a fan. I went to a live show yesterday on Saturday in Boston, Massachusetts, and not having Roman Reigns on the card, drastically diminished my personal interest in the show. Now, I still went to the show because, obviously I'm a big fan and I'm going to go to the show and I'm doing podcasts like this. But, just not having Roman Reigns on the card, him not being champion at this time, it was just a little weird, and it was just hard for me to get accustomed to knowing that he wasn't going to be there because Cena wasn't there either. So, they kind of didn't have their big guns at that show. And it kind of showed because looking in the crowd, it's not like the house show was sold out. And I know that those kind of numbers are really big in WWE's eyes as far as house show numbers and popularity with champions. So, obviously Dean Ambrose being the champion is what drew most of those people to that show. And if, there aren't that many people at the show, they attribute that to the champion. So I wouldn't blame Dean too much. It's not really his fault all the way, but, that is what it is. After Roman Reigns basically asked for a rematch for the belt because he gets one. Obviously, someone has a problem with that, and that's Seth Rollins, and he comes out and talks about how he's pissed because there can't be Roman can't have his rematch before Seth can because Seth beat Roman clean. So why wouldn't Seth be the first one in line to get his title shot, which is very legitimate. I think it's funny, somewhere I saw somewhere that, heels always have a lot of truth in what they say, and people don't like that because it's the way that they say it that pisses people off. Now, Seth is 100% true in what he's saying. He obviously does deserve a shot over Roman. He does deserve Dean Ambrose did hit him from behind the back to win the belt, but it's because he's so snobby and weaselly about it. People don't really relate to that, so they turn against him instead of saying, "Hey, he's right." An example I can bring up of that is Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels back in their legendary feud in 2008, when Chris Jericho was complaining that Shawn Michaels had basically lied to the fans about his knee injury in the middle of a match, and then all of a sudden the knee injury was gone like that, and he ended up winning the match, and Jericho was saying, "Shawn's the one that lied to you, so I don't understand why you guys still like him, and you're getting mad at me for telling you the truth." It's because he was coming off snobby the way he was saying it, which is why, at the end of the day, in that program, Chris Jericho was the heel and Shawn Michaels was the face. So, it's good work. It's great work by Seth Rollins. He's still portraying the role he's in, even though he is growing in popularity. More people at that house show I was at yesterday night were cheering for Seth than they were for Dean. There were a lot of kids there, so obviously a lot of kids were cheering for Dean, but most of the adult fans wanted Seth, and they had a match for the title, and I just kept thinking in my head, oh man, Lowell, Massachusetts, when Samoa Joe beat Finn Balor, I'm like, well, maybe they'll do it in Boston now. At this show, maybe Seth will win the belt against Dean, but it didn't happen. Dean retained the title. Obviously, that's what usually happens at house shows, but you have a little hope there. So they set up basically a number one contenders match at the end of this segment for Dean Ambrose and for Dean Ambrose's World Heavyweight title. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns were going to be in this match, and that was going to be at the end. So moving on in the show, the second match was Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Like part 37. How many times have we seen these guys fight? Now, obviously, it's very entertaining to watch them fight, so it's great to always see them to go at it. And because there's always been different victors in their matches, you never really know who's gonna win. So it's cool. It's cool to see them and always have that curiosity of who's gonna win tonight, because they fight all the time, and different things happen every time they fight. This time, Sami Zayn pulled it out by reversing Kevin Owens' pop-up powerbomb into a roll-up. And obviously, Kevin Owens wasn't very happy about that. They proceeded to brawl after the match, and the brawl went all the way into backstage, and there were so many people pulling them off, a la Brock Lesnar and Undertaker, probably around last year when they had their big feud and they had so many people pulling them off. Now, it wasn't the whole locker room. It was more just officials and senior officials trying to pull them, separate them. But either way, it's just always great to see that feud because, again, those guys are such great workers and they have such good chemistry together. That is just awesome to see them do their thing together. After that segment, or after that match, there was something strange that happened. We've seen in the past couple weeks on Raw, past Raw GMs and SmackDown GMs have come out and tried to give their case for being the host of the new show, the new live Smackdown show, which will be airing July 19th on the USA Network. And today, or on this Raw episode, it was good old John Laurinaitis, good old people power, came out, tried to make his case for being the GM of this new SmackDown show that will start airing live. And Shane McMahon wasn't very happy about that. And he came out and told Johnny to beat it in probably a little bit more words than I'm saying, but that's basically what he was saying. And it's funny because all these general managers that are coming out, they're making them all seem very stupid. Like they're just very comical, basically trying to make them funny. And, the John Laurinaitis one I thought was funny. I'm not going to lie. I laughed a little bit when he came out because I never really liked him. and to see him have from being the serious guy that he always was to this basically a joke was very comedic for me. So it was awesome to see that. The best part about this whole thing was, this was a setup to a match between Enzo and Cass against the Vaudevillains. But as John Laurinaitis was making his way off the stage, Enzo comes out, and Shane McMahon is still out there. And when Enzo and Cass come out, they see Shane, and Enzo just decide to have this awesome tandem of a dance battle or dance. They just both have dance fever and start doing their little shuffles. And if you think about it, Enzo and Shane, if you didn't see it, they have very similar shuffles, and it was just cool to see them at the same time. It was a cool Raw moment, something that was cool for the fans to see. I'm sure it was very cool for me to see. But again, this was leading up to a match between them two and the Vaudevillains, and this match probably lasted all of maybe 3 minutes. But the story behind it was, it was a good story for as short of a match as it was. There was still a pretty good story, and it was that this is the first time Enzo and Cass have faced the Vaudevillains since Payback, where Enzo got knocked out of the match by hitting his head on the ropes and got a concussion. So this was kind of redemption for them, and they did get redemption. They ended up winning with their basically flying Uso splash or whatever you want to call it off the top rope, and they got their victory over the Vaudevillains, which was long overdue. The Vaudevillains aren't, they're just, I guess they're good as being the heel tag team, but you don't really see them doing much else besides coming out and losing, reminding me of a lot of people on this roster, not just them. So, they're not really by themselves in that category. After that, we see an AJ Styles promo that was pretty cool, I would say, because it kind of tricked a lot of the fans. I know it tricked me a little bit. I didn't really know where it was going at first, and then to see where it was headed, it was a little bit disappointing to see where it got at the end. But it did, again, just further the storyline between them in this feud between AJ Styles and John Cena. But basically, AJ came out and was talking about how he was disappointed in his members of the club, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, because basically they breached the contract that AJ and John had made before Money in the Bank and helped AJ win. Now, AJ wasn't angry about him winning because he very over and over again stated that he was very happy that he had beat John Cena in his first match, which anybody should be, because now your name's up there. You beat the biggest face in the company. So whether it was clean or not, most of the time it isn't. You did beat him. So, I'm happy for AJ. Again, he wasn't in the way that we wanted him to win, but he still won. And to see, after AJ was talking about what was going on, he told his friends to come out and apologize to him. And they came out and they apologized. There was no fight. There was no big deal about it. They just came out and said sorry to AJ. And then AJ decided to call out John Cena because he wanted his members of the club to apologize to Cena as well. And Cena comes out in his typical Cena way, and they apologize to him, but Cena obviously doesn't accept the apology, and proceeds to call the club. They're all AJ just telling AJ that he broke the contract and that he's just as big of a punk as Cena thought he was going to be. And AJ goes and says, well, you know what? If you want me to make it up to you, basically, you can have a match tonight against any one of us. And Cena goes, well, that's easy. I'm going to go against AJ Styles. And the crowd is getting hyped. And AJ's like, whoa, wait a minute. You don't have to fight me because I already beat you. So, we don't need to do this match again. But he tells him that he can fight Carl Anderson. And they promise to stay out of the way while he goes against Carl Anderson. And this match was just, this match was a shame because I was thinking, singles match for Carl Anderson, Machine Gun Carl Anderson, what they called him back in New Japan, a guy who was just a great singles wrestler turned tag team wrestler. But obviously in WWE, they just see him as strictly a tag team wrestler because he faces Cena and doesn't get one lick of offense in. Cena just kicks his ass from start to beginning. Very short match, probably a minute, 2 minutes long, to be honest with you. And after John Cena gives him his attitude adjustment, he goes for the pin, and the club come out and disqualify themselves again, beat up Cena again. AJ Styles gives Cena another Styles clash, and that's the end of that. Cena gets beat up again. And it was funny because, watching the Stone Cold podcast at the end of the show, between AJ Styles and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold was telling telling AJ at the beginning of the show that it was funny that he sees, him beating up Cena and giving him a word of advice, telling him, hey, when you get a chance to beat the face of the company up and stomp his face in, then you better take advantage and stomp his face in, because it's not every day you get to stomp in the face of the company. So that was just funny to hear something like that out of Stone Cold himself, who was the face of the company for so long. And I guess it just trying to give AJ a little bit of advice, knowing that he probably will never get another win against Cena cleanly, one-on-one, or cleanly dirty, whatever it is, another win on Cena in a one-on-one match again. So I guess those words of advice were taken into consideration. So after that happens, we have a segment between Renee Young and Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch basically coming out saying that she's the only girl in the Divas division with dignity. And for the most part, she's true, because there aren't many faces in the Divas division, as we know. Almost every girl is bad, and Becky Lynch is the only one that's good. Therefore, she's the only one who keeps getting bullied on over and 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 over again. As she liked to say, she got turned on by Paige, she got turned on by Charlotte, she got turned on by Natalya very recently. She got turned on. I didn't mean it like that. She's someone they turned on her basically. But I mean, if they turned her on too, I don't know. I don't know anything about Becky Lynch. But she comes and says that basically she's not giving anyone any more chances, that she's gonna come out and just completely just not care about anyone. She has to start caring for herself, because she has to realize that people are just gonna keep turning on her. And as she's saying that, ironically, Natalya comes out and proceeds to beat Becky Lynch up again behind her back and throw her into some big metal thing, and tells her that Natalya is going to look out for Natalya now. And for the first time in years. And I mean, first time in years, Natalya is right, because Natalya hasn't been a bad guy in years. So, I mean, this is the first time in a while. So, good for her. I don't think her personality really matches being a heel. So I think it's going to be a little bit tough for her to portray a heel on TV, because in real life, I would see Natalya as a face. She's such a nice girl. So, I don't really necessarily see her heel run to be that successful, but, that's what they wanted to do. So that's what we're stuck with. Another match that happened on Raw, a throwaway match basically between Baron Corbin and Zack Ryder. Baron Corbin comes out, Zack Ryder's already in the ring. It's just like, it just goes to show, like, dang, they give Zack Ryder his WrestleMania moment, and then they just, they don't even give him an entrance on Raw anymore. That's how far he's sunk in the last couple months. Intercontinental Champion, winner at WrestleMania. Now he can't even get an entrance on Raw. So Zack's run was very memorable, to say the least. Baron Corbin wins this match very handily against Zack. I mean, obviously Zack got some offense in. He has to be legitimate in the eyes of the fans, because he was an Intercontinental Champion not too long ago, so he can't just get squashed like Carl Anderson did. But he did lose handily. The match wasn't more than 3 minutes, so it was very nonchalant, very unmemorable. But one thing that was the next segment that I thought was really cool was Paige and Charlotte. They were going to have a match for the women's title, because if you remember, the week before, Paige went against Charlotte and beat her, but it was a non-title match, but she still beat her. So they figured she deserves a title match now, because why not? You just beat the champion, so you deserve a match for her title. So, Paige and Charlotte have that. And before this match happened, Paige had an interview talking about how she's gonna win the title and blah blah blah. And Charlotte and Becky and Dana Brooke are behind Paige, basically causing a ruckus. And Paige isn't liking this very much. And Charlotte then starts to tell Paige that her time is up, because when PCB, their tag team, their women group that they had back in the day, was to get when it broke up, because of Paige. Paige sank to the bottom of the women's division, while Charlotte rose to the top and became women's champion. And that's not wrong at all. Again, another snobby heel thing being said, but it's truth. Paige really did sink to the bottom. Why? I couldn't tell you. Paige is a very good worker. Their match tonight was actually very good. Paige and Charlotte are two of the greatest, two of the better workers in the company right now. Maybe two of the greatest ever, Paige is still young. She has many years on her. She can still get way better. And she's already had Divas title runs under her belt, and she can only get better from there. I think because she's so young, they probably take her for granted a little bit and realize they have her for a long time, so they don't need to rush her being great. They can just bring her back anytime, kind of like The Undertaker. So the match was great. It was a great worked match. The ending was very shenanigan-y, obviously, with this champion. Paige gets her finisher in the Rampage and goes for a pin, and the stupidest botch of all time happens, and the stupidest botch in women's division history happens of all time. And Dana Brooke, the spot was for Dana Brooke to get Charlotte's foot on the rope, but she couldn't quite get Charlotte's foot on the freaking rope. So instead of getting it on the rope, she just held Charlotte's foot and held it against the rope so that Paige wouldn't get the 3 count. And the ref sees that Dana Brooke is holding Charlotte's foot, but because she can't get disqualified, the end of the match is supposed to be Charlotte winning, the ref just acts like Dana Brooke isn't holding the foot and says that, oh, Charlotte's foot is on the rope, there's no 3 count. The stupidest, I don't even know what to say. It was just very stupid. And I guess someone in the referee's headset must have been telling him, maybe Vince telling him, dude, you need to throw Dana Brooke out of this match, because she can't be in this match for cheating. She just cheated. So it would unlegitimize the refs if he didn't throw her out after seeing her hold Charlotte's foot and cheating for her. So the ref proceeds to throw Dana Brooke out of the match. While he's doing that, Charlotte does her natural selection finisher to Paige because of the distraction, and Charlotte gets the victory. So this match was very good. Again, it wasn't very long, but for a short Divas match, it was very good because these are two great workers, Paige and Charlotte. But that finish just kind of just took all the air out of the match. It was unfortunate because it was a very good match. But the real news is at the end of this match, obviously Dana Brooke and Charlotte proceed to beat up Paige. And who else comes out but, no, not Lita, no, not Trish Stratus, no, nothing like that, but Sasha Banks, who makes her Raw comeback after months of being MIA from television. She finally comes back and drops a can of whoop ass on Dana Brooke and Charlotte. It was great to see Sasha back. She deserves to be on Raw, obviously. The weird thing was at the end of this whole thing, Sasha Banks then grabs the women's title that Charlotte leaves in the ring, holds it up to the crowd while the crowd is cheering. And Paige, who just got cheated out of a women's title match, holds Sasha Banks' hand up and basically says, yeah, cheer for her, who's going to be this girl who's going to be the future women's champion. And I'm just going to be here, I just had a chance at winning the women's title, but I'm cool. I'm fine. Cheer Sasha Banks. Like, you just got cheated out of winning the title, but yet you decided that you're going to cheer for Sasha Banks. It just didn't make any sense to me. You just got cheated out of a title, and now you're going to have someone else hold the title that you could have just won, that you probably should have just won. And you're not mad about it at all. Whatever. It's whatever. It didn't make any sense. So after that segment, the Wyatts make a surprise appearance on Raw. Now, it was a surprise before they decided to do a promo of the Wyatts coming back before they actually came back, which kind of, the big pop that they would have gotten if they had just came out without this promo coming right before it would have been awesome. But I think the point of that was because they still see the Wyatts as heels. Because if that was the case, that's why they did that, so that they wouldn't get a big pop. Because while they're doing this promo, the New Day come out, who are the biggest faces in WWE, not just of the tag team division, but maybe of the whole company. So if they're going to pair the Wyatts against them, obviously the Wyatts can't be favored. So they probably didn't want a loud pop from them, which is why they had the little promo of them coming out before they actually did come out. So I get it, makes sense. It's unfortunate because you think when the Wyatts being gone so long, them coming back, they would embrace the fact that they would be back and try to make them good guys and just go around being badass. But that's not what they wanted. They wanted to keep them bad, so that's what they are. They're still bad. And they had a little promo, and it was weird, just the goofiness of the New Day and the seriousness of the Wyatts. It makes for a very conflicting promo. So it was just weird. And the weirdest part of it all was, I think Xavier Woods, they're doing this thing with Xavier Woods where he's, I guess he's taking everything the Wyatts are saying more seriously than Kofi and Big E. So he's kind of lost more in what they're saying than the other two. So, he's just, while they were doing their New Day dance or, New Day, whatever it was, talking about them being WWE Tag Team Champions, Xavier Woods was just out of it. He was just like focusing on the Wyatts and not paying attention to his own teammates. So it's gonna be weird to see what they do with that. It was just a weird start of it, but we'll see where that goes. Next on Raw was Titus O'Neil had a promo talking about how he didn't really appreciate Rusev bad-mouthing his family after him losing the belt after him losing a chance at winning the U.S. title. So Titus was going to show Rusev that that he should never disrespect him or his family. And it was weird because Rusev comes out and you think it's going to be a match because there's a ref and they're announcing that, oh, this is Rusev, and they're announcing Titus O'Neil. But Titus O'Neil comes out and just beats down Rusev and basically beats him down into the crowd. And then after that, they play Titus's music. And I watched it back, and they never rang the bell for it to be an official match, but it had the feel of it being a match. So I don't understand why they both had very big entrances, and you saw both of their entrances, and they announced them coming to the ring, but yet it wasn't a match. It was just Titus beating up Rusev and then it going to commercial. So it was a little bit weird. It was weird. It's easy. It's easy to say that Raw wasn't the best Raw. The Raw from the week before was way better. But this one doesn't really match up to that one. One thing I do want to say is Darren Young with his promos, he's doing with Bob Backlund and the Make Darren Young Great Again. Well, no disrespect to Darren Young, but Darren Young was never on the level of a Bob Backlund as far as how over he was with the crowd. Bob Backlund was selling out Madison Square Garden in the late 70s, early 80s, or the mid 70s, really, into the late 70s. And I don't see Darren Young doing that. And it's just weird to me that I just hope that they play these promos on SmackDown, on Raw, every week. They play these Darren Young promos, make Darren Young great again. Well, hopefully when we do get this big payoff and Darren Young does finally wrestle again, it's a payoff. Like we're interested in seeing what happens. Hopefully that's the case because we've been seeing this forever. And if Darren Young comes out and it's disappointing, it's going to be very disappointing that just like, the Puerto Rican travel agents having promos every week and then them coming out and it being very quiet and nonchalant, the crowd not really caring about their match. I hope it's not the same with Darren Young because he's a very talented wrestler, and it would be a shame to see that these promos just deflated his career even more. So hopefully something good comes out of these promos, something good better come out of these promos because I'm tired of seeing them. So that's my take on that. The Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, who has been filming a movie, so he hasn't been on Raw in many weeks. And they showed him on the set of his movie with his wife, who, by the way, is very, very, very hot. And he's just talking about how he really respects everyone that helps create the movie. And right after he says that, he starts bad mouthing a guy who put the wrong type of tomatoes in his salad or something like that, and then proceeds to say that everybody working here is incompetent and doesn't do anything right. And everyone's standing right there listening to him. Every person, every member of the crew and the stage crew and all that have to do with the movie. So it's just awesome to see The Miz doing his thing again because he's really revitalized his career from becoming the main event of WrestleMania to becoming basically a joke, and now bringing his career back up and being Intercontinental Champion. And even though he's not on TV every week, he's still having better segments than other people are who have been on Raw the last couple weeks. So it's good to see The Miz still keeping up with his promos and stuff like that. It's cool to see that. So after that happened, we had before the main event of the night, we had one more promo between Chris Jericho and Shane McMahon, and Chris Jericho basically saying that he doesn't respect Shane McMahon as a decision maker on Raw, and hopes that if he does get drafted, wherever he gets drafted, it isn't with wherever Shane McMahon is. He's on the opposite side because he doesn't really think Shane is a good decision maker. And he says that he should be the number one contender for the Dean Ambrose's title, and that he never forgot the 69 thumbtacks that Dean Ambrose put in his body after their Extreme Rules match. And Chris Jericho, man, I'm telling you, I was getting tired of seeing him on TV, but he really revitalized his career as well. Not that it needed to be revived. It's always been great, but he just shows you why he's so great, because even when you think he starts to get corny, there's always something that he always has a master plan. When he was saying that stupid idiot crap when he started, I really didn't think it was cool. I didn't like it, but it started getting over slowly and more slowly, and now I love when he says it. And it just goes to show that a guy, when a wrestler is one step ahead of the fans and knows how to manipulate them very well, and Chris Jericho is very good at doing this. He has a great pass to doing it. He's still good at doing it, and I want to see more Jericho on Raw. And hopefully we'll get that. I know he's not going to be on Raw for very much longer, but hopefully while he's still here, they do utilize him and continue to bless us with his amazing manipulation skills, to say the least. So the main event of the night was the number one contenders match for Dean Ambrose's WWE World Heavyweight title. It was between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, as we know from the promo at the beginning of the show. Dean Ambrose was on commentary. He's just neutral on commentary. I'm not gonna say he's bad or he's good. He's just there. It is what it is. Seth and Roman had a great match, a very good match, maybe even a better match than their match at the last pay-per-view, which is at Money in the Bank. And the ending was great too. These guys are just great workers. They know each other so well. It's great to see when they wrestle each other. And we've only seen it twice, but both times have been amazing. The Money in the Bank pay-per-view and then this match on Raw. So the ending of this match was weird, to say the least. Dean Ambrose was commentating, and Roman Reigns was taking Seth Rollins. Well, all right, let's backtrack here. Seth Rollins they were very close to a countout, and after that happened, it was like a 9 count, and they both got in the ring. After that happened, they pulled each other back out of the ring, and Roman gave Seth a spear on the table. Now I think the table was probably supposed to break, but it didn't, so they just landed on the table after a spear, and it was supposed to break because they both ended up not getting up and getting counted out, and the match ended up in a double countout. So it would have been more realistic if the table did break, but I'm just I'm just pulling hairs here, so it's not a big deal. But so the match ended in a double count out. Shane McMahon comes out, the general manager, and says that the match, it can't end like this. We need a number one contender. So Dean Ambrose proceeds to get up from the announcer table and say, "Listen, dude, I will help you out with this decision. Instead of you worrying about a number one contender, I'll just fight the both of them at the next pay-per-view at Battleground." And then, so now we have a triple threat match for the main event of the next pay-per-view, like I said earlier in the show, between Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. And it's the Shield triple threat that we've all been waiting for. These three guys have been best friends when they came in, and after Seth Rollins turned on them, they were all on their separate paths, and they finally have all come back together. And it's going to culminate all in one night at this Battleground pay-per-view in this triple threat match. It's amazing to me. I feel like Battleground is going to have to be the 5th biggest pay-per-view of all time behind the other 4 main pay-per-views, because if you look at the main event of Battleground the last 2 years, they have been matches that are like once in a lifetime. Last year was Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, and that match ended up being a disappointment. But just the lead up to that match was amazing. It turned Brock face, and it was just the ultimate culmination of what people were waiting after WrestleMania, after Seth stole Brock Lesnar's title, or whatever you want to say it is. But that's what happened. And now this year, the main event of Battleground is a triple threat match between the 3 Shield members. So, I think a lot of people are very confused about it because, they probably expected this triple threat match to be at SummerSlam or maybe even WrestleMania, which is what I had thought, a couple weeks back. But obviously, we're all wrong. It's going to be on Battleground, and hopefully they don't change the name of this pay-per-view next year, because that would be a shame that a match like this on such a great pay-per-view, whatever. But I think with this, it's a very interesting dynamic. They're having the triple threat match now because I think they're actually going to set up a bigger match at SummerSlam, if you believe it or not. And if my idea is correct, it's going to be a fatal 4-way between the 3 Shield members, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. And the 4th member of that match will probably be a returning Brock Lesnar. And hopefully Brock Lesnar is fresh off of a UFC 200 victory. Hopefully, because then they could just shoot him into the main event. If he loses that match, it's going to be pretty tough for us to be legitimized and for him to be legitimate enough to be put in the main event of SummerSlam after losing his first match in MMA in a while. And I don't know much about MMA, so I'm not going to try to speculate if he's going to beat this guy named Mark Hunt at UFC 200. But from what I hear, Mark Hunt is a badass, so it's going to be a tough. I know I'm definitely going to watch it. Not that I'm trying to promote UFC or anything, but Brock Lesnar's in it, and Brock Lesnar's still a part of WWE. So, I think that's the whole point. Cross promotion and all that good stuff. So it worked. I mean, I'm going to watch it. So they got me. So that was the end of Raw. It was a very interesting Raw. It wasn't the best. There were segments that were very dull. But it did further storylines, which is all you can ask for with a Raw episode. So that's the good thing. So if we want to go from there, we can talk about what happened in NXT. I know not many podcasts do NXT reviews, but the Heartbreak Heel Turn does. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do an NXT review, whether you guys, like it or not.
Pathetic. Jealous. How dare you even compare us? Rude. First off, I left Blake and Murphy because I was the star. I made Blake and Murphy. You, on the other hand, you were just an accessory. An afterthought. Got it? So I'm going to be the next NXT Women's Champion because I deserve to be the next NXT Women's Champion. I don't know if your memory's a little foggy from Nia beating you in the triple threat match, but you forgot one little thing. I never got pinned. Okay.
That was a little cut from the NXT show that happened this past Wednesday at Full Sail University. That was Alexa Bliss talking about how she deserved to be NXT Women's Champion, or at least have a shot against Asuka for the women's title. I think Alexa Bliss is I mean, I played that promo because I thought that was the most entertaining part of the show. I think Alexa Bliss has great promo skills. I think she's a great wrestler in the ring. To be honest with you, I didn't really see her wrestle much. All I saw her was, she was the valet for Blake and Murphy, so she didn't really wrestle much. But after that triple threat match between her, Nia Jax, and Carmella, I realized Alexa Bliss has some skills, and that NXT, that system that they keep pumping out these great divas, they don't fail. Alexa Bliss is a great diva, and that promo basically set up a match between her and Carmella at the next NXT show to basically a number one contendership for the women's title. So, not in such words, but basically, or maybe a match against Nia Jax for the number one contendership. So, that match is going to be important regardless. And if it was up to me, Carmella, yeah, it's great to see her have her run, but Alexa Bliss has been just killing it lately. I don't think she's going to get the victory, but I think eyes are going to be opened at her performance against Carmella at this next show, because it doesn't make much sense to have Alexa Bliss as a heel going in, to face Nia Jax, another heel, to face Asuka. Nobody's going to root for Alexa or Nia Jax in a potential match like that. So it wouldn't make much sense. But if she keeps working hard, I can see a main roster push up for her, or even an NXT Women's title very, very soon. So I hope she doesn't take for granted the opportunity that she's gotten, because she's very good. But enough of that talking. I'm not here to talk about one person. If I want to talk about NXT and I want to talk about one person, I'm going to talk about my favorite NXT superstar, and that, my friends, Heartbreak's favorite superstar, is Ty Dillinger. But what they did with Ty Dillinger this past week was very disappointing. And it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but they're kind of just taking the venom out of the snake. And when you take the venom out of the snake, guys, what do you end up with? You end up with a belt. That's what Ty Dillinger is right now. They're turning him into a belt. Not a championship belt, a belt. A rope, maybe. Like nothing. Because he came out today and he got another match. And it's very rare to see him on back-to-back NXT shows, but that's what we saw today. And I was excited to see him again, to kick off the show, because I was figuring they were going to have him start a winning streak tonight, because he's lost a couple matches, to get his momentum going. And not only that, but he went against a jobber, a guy that we probably don't even know, a guy's name that I don't even remember. And because I'm angry right now about what happened, I'm not even going to talk about his name. I don't know who that is. Whoever you are that beat, ugh. But Ty Dillinger ends up losing to this jobber. And obviously he's not a jobber. Obviously I got it all wrong. Ty Dillinger must be the jobber, because he just lost to a no-name guy, and it doesn't make much sense. I don't understand. They're pissing me off, and I guess that's the point. This guy Ty Dillinger, who has all the tools, loses 2 matches in a row to whoever it was that he lost to. I don't know. Austin Aries maybe, or no, or Shinsuke Nakamura. I can't seem to remember. But whoever it was that he lost to them 2 times in a row. Then he comes out and loses to this jobber. And not only are they doing that, but he's losing his swagger along with losing. Because even when he was losing against, Austin Aries, and when he lost against Sami Zayn after NXT TakeOver Dallas, he still showed the swagger, and he still had the crowd in the palm of his hands. But he's like losing it because I guess they're telling him that he can't favor the crowd anymore. So he's not favoring the crowd. And not only is he not getting crowd reactions because he's not favoring them anymore, but he's losing. So I don't understand what they're doing with him. It doesn't make much sense to me. And I'm not gonna rant much about it anymore, but I just want to see something different for Ty Dillinger, because I think he's special, and he's just starting to lose his luster because of this. And I usually am never the type to get angry when people lose, because I understand there's winning and losing, so someone has to lose. But come on, to a guy who, like, come on, a jobber, come on, guys, get it together. The rest of NXT, Bayley beating Deonna Purrazzo, Bayley being Bayley, basically. It was great to see Bayley back in the ring after her injury. That amazing Alexa Bliss promo with Carmella. There was another person on the other side of that, but I only wanted you to hear Alexa Bliss because to me that was the most entertaining part. Let's see what else happened. Nia Jax beat Liv Morgan, who, Liv Morgan did put up a little bit of a fight, and obviously, she's an NXT diva, or superstar, so she's gonna be talented. And one thing that was noted, Nia Jax finished Liv Morgan with a power bomb, which is a different finisher than she's normally accustomed to, which is the leg drop. It looks better on her. Hopefully, this is a finisher that she does more often than the leg drop. The leg drop, I understand, obviously, because she's a bigger girl, but the power bomb just, shows everything in one package. The strength, the quickness, all that stuff. So it was good to see Nia Jax get that victory. I was just kind of mad after seeing Ty Dillinger, so I was just very nonchalant about about my notes with NXT. But Buddy, the other guy, Blake and Murphy, Buddy Murphy, there you go. Buddy Murphy was interrupted a conversation between William Regal and Shinsuke Nakamura to talk about how he doesn't feel like he's respected in NXT. And Nakamura gladly wanted to give him respect, so he told him to face him. And he did, and Nakamura knocked this match out of the park as well. Buddy Murphy, I don't know if it's Nakamura that brought him up. Maybe it was, but he didn't look that bad in this match. But again, like I said, Shinsuke Nakamura is probably the best worker in that system in NXT. So he can make a piece of paper look good in the ring. And that's what he did tonight. He made a wrestler look very good in Buddy Murphy. And Shinsuke Nakamura just keeps knocking all these matches out of the park. At first, I was very worried about him being in a match that wasn't a big time feel match, like him being in random NXT, shows and random matches like that. But he's very accustomed to doing his thing. And even though he does a lot of the same moves over and over again, that's really wrestling. And as long as you still have the crowd behind your back while you're doing it, that's all that matters. And that's what he's been doing. So you can't get mad at him for that. He's amazing in the ring. So digressing from NXT, we go to Smackdown. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Smackdown, but a couple of things that I did want to mention. Seth Rollins came out in the beginning, very mad again about Dean Ambrose, blah, blah, blah. Sami Zayn basically challenges anybody on the roster to come face him in a one-on-one match. Now, I'm sure it would have been Roman Reigns if he wasn't suspended by this point, but he was, so it wasn't Roman. But instead, Sami Zayn came out, and they basically set up a match between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins for the main event of SmackDown, which is a match that we haven't seen yet. So obviously it's very intriguing, which makes people want to keep watching SmackDown, which is the point. So I liked the opening promo. It was very good because it made people want to keep watching and see what happens at the end, which is cool. In between all that happening, Dean Ambrose came out and basically had his Ambrose Asylum, unbeknownst to Seth. So Seth wasn't very happy about that, but what can you do? He's a champion, So next match was Alberto Del Rio versus Cesaro. And I actually saw this match at a house show, at the house show I was at the other night. And it was basically the same thing. But again, these guys are great workers, so it was an awesome match to watch. This match on SmackDown in particular was very good as well. Those two have good chemistry for some reason or another. Well, they're just two really good workers. And one of them is a world champion, and one of them should be a world champion very soon in Cesaro, because he's too good of a worker not to be. So it's a shame that he hasn't been yet, but I can see why he isn't. A couple of notes about Cesaro. I just want to tell you guys the things that I like about him and the things that I don't really care too much about him. I love the fact that he has this little Superman type thing now. It's cool to me. I like how he plays off of his opponent. And he does it in every match. In this example, Alberto Del Rio started the match with a backbreaker, a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. And after that, he was very happy about it. Then Cesaro comes back and proceeds to give him a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker right after, and then gives him two more. Like, so he just one-upped or two-upped Alberto Del Rio, and it was just awesome to see like a story being told in a match that wasn't promoted, that wasn't like a big deal, but they can still it just shows that you can still tell a story in a match without it having a storyline behind it. There still can be a story within the match, and Cesaro's very good at that. That's one thing I like about him. I love the fact that he has a tape on his shoulder, his recently recovered shoulder. It's kind of like a kryptonite to Superman because Cesaro looks like he's chiseled out of stone, so it doesn't look like he has very many weaknesses. But having the tape on his shoulder gives the weakness. That's his kryptonite. And with the Superman character that he's playing, coming out with the suit and then ripping it off, the tape is very suiting for him, and it gives opponents a place to attack on Cesaro, and that seems legitimate. So it's cool to have that for him to have a weakness, because having a weakness as a face is very important, because then when you do your comeback, it'll be legitimate because you really were hurt in the first place. Things that I don't really like about Cesaro, one of the only things I don't like is his theme song. I don't like his theme song. It's just very generic to me, and it sounds like a theme song for a guy who isn't as awesome as Cesaro is. So hopefully they change that, because he's had it for a while now, and every time he comes out to it, that's what I think. I think this is really stupid. From the sirens to the like, the whole thing is just dumb. Give him a good theme, guys. Come on. I know you can do better than that. He's had it for a while. I even prefer his original theme at this point over the one that he has now. So, his original theme would fit more with his character now than the theme that he has now. So maybe like a Superman type theme, type beat kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But they need to change it sooner or later, because if he's going to have a push with any kind of belt, with a theme song like that, it's not going to last very long, to be honest. The ending of this match was awesome. Cesaro reversed Alberto Del Rio's cross arm breaker into a neutralizer, and he reversed an arm breaker into a neutralizer. Like, that's all I have to say. I don't know how to explain it. That was just awesome ring work. If you want to see it happen in front of your face, you should go and watch this. Watch how this match ended. It was great to see that. And the main event, no. Let's not skip to the main event. I was just gonna skip everything else that happened, but other things are noted here. Sheamus and Apollo Crews had a rematch from their Money in the Bank match, which Apollo Crews won. And the match was okay. It was all right. I think Apollo Crews still has a lot to learn as far as in-ring psychology is concerned. He has all the moves, but he's not very seasoned as to when to do certain moves and when not to do certain moves. And I think that'll come with time. And I think he has a bright future ahead of him, but he's still learning right now. He's still not, up there as far as his in-ring psychology goes. And the end of the match, actually, it goes to show, the 1-in-1 kind of thing, because Sheamus got a count-out victory on Apollo. So he got his victory back. It wasn't as clean as Apollo's roll-up, which isn't very clean at all. But still, he got a victory. A count-out, yeah, but, just, you're going to put a guy over. Put him over, Don't just half-ass put him over, because then the crowd will half-ass cheer for him, which isn't what you want. Guys that get half-ass cheers aren't going to be very successful. So, so the Vaudevillains come out, and they come out to face the New Day. And I almost forgot that this match happened, because this match lasted 2 minutes, like legit 2 minutes. And this match was really a setup for after the New Day won, which you knew they were going to win. The Wyatts come out on the screen and have a promo. And again, Xavier Woods does this weird thing where he's really focused on what the Wyatts are saying, instead of paying attention to his friends. He's really like, it's kind of like he's reluctant and scared to say anything to them, because maybe something happened between them, or he's afraid of them right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's the weakest mentally between the three of the New Day members. And I think the Wyatts smell blood in the water. They smell the weak link in Xavier Woods, and that's what they're going to pounce on probably on Raw tomorrow. Um, it's gonna be when I first saw it on Raw, it was weird. Now seeing it on SmackDown, knowing that they're doing it on purpose, it's interesting. So it's interesting to see what they'll continue to do with it and how this story continues to unfold. Um, Next match was Becky Lynch versus Dana Brooke again, for the third time. Dana Brooke got the first 2 wins because of shenanigans. And guess what? She gets this victory because of shenanigans. So Dana Brooke has 3 victories over Becky Lynch, now back to back to back. And this was all to set up Sasha Banks coming out and saving Becky Lynch from another beatdown by Charlotte and Dana Brooke. It was cool to see Sasha again. But damn, like, you guys are beating a dead horse with this Becky Lynch getting turned on thing. Like, she just can't. Why would she even wrestle? If I was her, I wouldn't wrestle anymore. Because if I wasn't guaranteed that someone wouldn't interfere in my match, I wouldn't wrestle. Because like for the past 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks, Becky Lynch, every match she has wrestled in, she has gotten turned on, and it's getting so old. So hopefully they do something different the next time that Becky Lynch fights, but I highly doubt that that's going to happen. So next thing we know, Sasha's going to turn on Becky. It's not the first time she's turned on Becky, so I'm sure she'll do it again. That was the end of that segment. And the main event of SmackDown, again, it was Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, which was a terrific match. I think they got more time, and I'm sure they'll probably have a pay-per-view match maybe somewhere down the line. Especially with this brand split, there's so many possibilities of things happening that I'm kind of salivating at the idea of what's going to happen with this brand split. Pause, but it's going to be cool to see what happens. But Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn had a very, very good match. It was interesting, the dynamic between those two, and and just the match was just awesome. It's not very many wrestling matches you can just say that were awesome, but this one, these two probably were second behind Roman and Seth Rollins for match of the week. If there was a category for match of the week, that's what it would be. It would be Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins was probably second behind Roman and Seth. And we're not going to get Roman and Seth every week. So, that's kind of a once in a blue moon kind of match. We just so happen to have it 2 days in a row. So, I think that Heartbreak actually just had an epiphany. I have an idea now. An idea that I didn't previously come into with this podcast, but I will do a match of the week now. And like I said, this match of the week was Roman and Seth, but it'll be a lot more formal on my next episode. So stay tuned for that, because that's actually a cool idea. Now I digress from my brilliance to inform you that Seth Rollins beat Sami Zayn in the main event. And obviously, Roman came out. I think Dean came out at the end, just to, test Seth Rollins' mettle. But it's going to be weird to see how they promote this triple threat match with Roman being suspended. I don't even know if it looks like they're going to keep mentioning him because they mentioned him on SmackDown. So, they're either going to keep him in the match or they're going to take him out this next coming Raw. We'll see tomorrow night. It'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting dynamic. Now to get into this segment that you've all been waiting for. If you've ever seen the movie Hot Tub Time Machine, this is a spin-off of that, and I would like to call this segment the Heartbreak Time Machine. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back in time to 1997. I was a little tyke. I was probably 4 years old at the time. I'm dating myself right now. Just to let you guys know, I'm not that old compared to other people that do podcasts. And so I didn't grow up in the Attitude Era like a lot of people that are podcasters now have been. So, I hear so many good things, and I obviously know all the big moments, but I never experienced it for myself on a week-to-week basis. And I feel like I didn't want to deprive myself of that because there's the WWE Network now, and I can watch those matches on a week-to-week basis, or back to back to back to back to back if I wanted to, because they have them all on the network now. And when I first started watching these matches, from the early mid '90s. There weren't any matches from the Attitude Era yet. As I started watching matches from 1995 and things like that, I got into they started adding more and more matches, and now they have all these matches that I was missing. Because when I first started watching, there were only 2 matches from 1997 on the network, and that was a match in Madison Square Garden in September with Stone Cold, a show with Stone Cold stunning Vince McMahon for the first time, and another show, I think later on in Biloxi, Missouri, but I can't really remember too much. But now they have all of them, so that's the point. It's awesome to see that, and we're gonna go back to a show of Raw called Raw Thursday. And if you guys remember the promo I played at the beginning of the show, it was my idol Shawn Michaels, in one of his not so very happy moments, having to give up the WWF title because he tore his ACL legitimately, and from there he had to give up his title. And after he gave up the title, he kind of put Raw and the WWF at the time. I'm not gonna keep saying WWF, so I'm gonna call it WWE, because I don't want to get in trouble with the World Wildlife Fund. So I'm not gonna do that. But he kind of put them in a bind because this Raw Thursday is right before a pay-per-view called the Final Four, which is slated to have the first Fatal 4-Way match in WWE history between Vader, Bret Hart, Stone Cold, a young Stone Cold Steve Austin, and a young Stone Cold in the WWE, and The Undertaker. And that match was supposed to be a number 1 contenders match for Shawn Michaels' title. And after Shawn Michaels injured himself, or after he got injured, he had to vacate the title. So because of that, because he vacated the title, this Fatal 4-Way match that was supposed to be for the number 1 contendership ended up being the title match. Now, again, I'm going back in time, so I'm going to go on a week-to-week basis with these episodes. So I'm not going to, if you don't know what happens with these episodes, I'm not spoiling it right now. I'm just going to go week to week and tell you what happens, because I don't know everything that happens. I know where things are headed towards, but I don't know where everything happens, and I'm happy about that, because then I still get some of those moments, those ooh-ah moments when I watch Raw from back in the day, and I don't know everything that exactly happens without watching it. I want to be in there and watching it myself and being in the moment. I'm not going to review Nitro. I'll probably review Nitro next week, but I didn't get the chance to watch it this week because Nitro in 1997 is starting to get a little bit bland to me. But I'm going to force myself to watch it because I guess I don't have a choice, so I have to do it. So this Raw Thursday episode aired February 13th in 1997, and it was in Lowell, Massachusetts. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because Lowell, Massachusetts was where Samoa Joe beat Finn Balor for the NXT championship probably around a month ago. And this was the original big deal of Lowell, Massachusetts back in 1997 when Shawn had to vacate his belt. And this is, from my knowledge, this is the only Raw Thursday episode that's in existence. And this only happened, I think, because Shawn Michaels hurt himself at a house show after Raw, the original Raw episode that aired that week. So they had to come up with a way to let the fans know that Shawn Michaels had to vacate the title, because he was slated for a title match at the next pay-per-view against Psycho Sid, and whoever won that match would face the winner of the Final Four. But because he injured himself, they had to let the fans know, so they probably turned this house show in Lowell, Massachusetts into a televised show to use it to explain what happened. Now, at the beginning of this show, we had a young Rocky Maivia, who was a young upstart wrestler who's the first third-generation superstar, and he has a match against the Intercontinental Champion Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and it's his first title match, and he's very new to the company. He only debuted at Survivor Series 2 months or 4 months previous, so he's fairly new to the company. Hunter Hearst Helmsley's been there since around WrestleMania 12, so the year before the year before around this time. This is when Hunter Hearst Helmsley was around. So he's been there for a while. Rocky Maivia is kind of new. He's a new young chipper who has all the physical tools to be a great champion. He just needs the support of the fans, which he's slowly getting right now. And him and Hunter have a good match, a very decent match. And Rocky ends up getting a roll-up, reversing Hunter's finisher into a roll-up, and winning the Intercontinental title at this Raw Thursday episode. His first championship victory of any kind, his first victory against Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And Hunter is very mad about this. He's not very happy about this at all. He has a newly acquired, he has, I think Hunter is the type of guy who's a weasel. So it looks like he needs a bodyguard to help him out. So it's great to see a title change at a show like this. And we'll see what happens after that. Next on this Raw Thursday episode was Sunny coming out, who is the original WWE diva. She doesn't wrestle, but she comes out and does everything else very well. And basically came out to announce a tag team match between Aldo Montoya and Bob Sparkplug Holly against the Headbangers. This was a very dull match, not too, not promoted, no promos behind it, nothing. Just had Sunny came out and Sunny announced it, and because of that, the match mattered. So it just shows you how much power Sunny has right now in the WWF in 1997. After this, they announced Shawn Michaels dropped the belt, and he announced that he lost his smile and that he needed to find it, and that he had a knee injury and he didn't know if he was ever going to come back to the WWF. This is a very sad moment because at this point in WWF TV, we really didn't know if Shawn Michaels was ever going to come back. Obviously, knowing the history of, if you guys are WWF fans, which you're listening to this podcast, so obviously you are, Shawn Michaels definitely had a great career after this moment happened. But at the time, I'm so sure, he was crying. There were fans in the crowd crying. I'm sure that this was a very serious moment. And maybe he really didn't know if he was going to come back. And even if he did know that he was going to return, he probably didn't know if he was ever going to be WWF champion again. And it really was his dream to be champion. And he was champion for the past year. So for this to happen to him, especially right before WrestleMania, it's pretty heartbreaking for him, I'm sure, and the whole company, because now it puts them all in a bind, because I'm sure Shawn was in their big plans for WrestleMania 13. But alas, he is not available now, so they have to move on. And after that happens, Gorilla Monsoon, the WWF commissioner, announces that the winner of the Final Four match will be the new WWF champion. And whoever wins that match has to face Psycho Sid on the next night on Raw for the belt that they just won. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see what happens on this night, on this pay-per-view, and to see what happens that night on Raw. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is me talking about Raw Thursday from February 13th, 1997. This is a new segment that I have called the Heartbreak Time Machine. So this, if you're confused, this is what I'm talking about. So we transitioned from Gorilla Monsoon to the Nation of Domination, a new heel faction that was formulated by Farouk, and it was Savio Vega against The Undertaker, and Savio Vega gets his ass kicked by The Undertaker. Undertaker, is a very good wrestler at this point. He might have a few chinks in his armor here and there, but his strikes are just as deadly as they were now. Back then in 1997, they were great. This was a good match. Savio Vega is a really good worker. Undertaker gets the victory, obviously. But then the Nation of Domination comes out and tries to attack Undertaker, only to have Ahmed Johnson, who was a big babyface, one of the most popular guys in the company, come out and help Undertaker get rid of the Nation of Domination. Ahmed Johnson had a very bad kidney injury and had to get a kidney transplant and almost legitimately probably died from this kidney ailment that he was going through. But he recovered from it and came back. He isn't as hot as he was when he first came out. And he was Intercontinental Champion, but because he had to drop it because of this kidney injury, which was in storyline caused by Farouk, he has a lot of animosity towards Farouk right now. And they had a match at the last pay-per-view at the Royal Rumble, and their feud is still going on currently. So that's where those two are at right now. The next match is two guys that you've probably heard of, Psycho Sid and a guy named Stone Cold Steve Austin, who at this point is had won the Royal Rumble in 1997, which was the month before this, and he won very, very, very controversially. He was already eliminated from the match, but none of the referees saw him get eliminated by Bret Hart. So what he does is, after he realizes nobody saw him get eliminated, he comes back into the ring and eliminates Vader and Undertaker, and then eliminates Bret Hart, and wins the Royal Rumble, even though he had already been eliminated. So because of this controversy, obviously this is 1997, but there is still replay. So the next night on Raw, they replayed that he did get eliminated, which is what led to this Final Four match in the first place. So Stone Cold obviously isn't very happy about that, but it is what it is. It happened. After this happened, Sid and Stone Cold had a very good match. Stone Cold is a very good bump taker. He gets on the ground very well, and him and Sid isn't that great of a worker, but he's so over with the crowd. He comes out in his entrance and he's like, "Who's bad?" And everyone's yelling, "You are! Who's bad? You are!" People don't really remember Sid for being a very popular guy, but at this point in 1997 in February, he is very, very popular. And a lot of people do very like him a lot, and he is very over. So he's one of the more popular guys on the roster at this point. So he's probably more popular than everyone except Shawn Michaels. So obviously the title match that he had is very legitimate. In the middle of this match ends with Stone Cold actually winning, but he wins via DQ because Bret Hart comes out and beats up Stone Cold. And he beats him up because it looked like, well, Stone Cold has been effing around with Bret Hart for the past couple weeks. And, Bret Hart just wanted to get his revenge this week. And also, Stone Cold looked like he was about to put a sharpshooter on Psycho Sid, and Sid reversed it. And I guess that disrespect that he was having because of that kind of pissed Bret Hart off backstage. And Bret proceeded to come out and really just pummel Stone Cold because of that. So he pummeled him. Sid was angry because he got Sid disqualified for beating up Stone Cold, and Bret and Sid started to fight each other as well. So after that segment ended, we had a boring tag team match, but very important match between Farouk and Crush, two members of the Nation of Domination, and the tag team champions, the British Bulldog and Owen Hart. And this match ended with a countout after Owen was getting beat up pretty badly by Crush. He gets thrown out of the ring, and he couldn't make it back in time for the 10 count. After he gets counted out, he's still in pain, or so it seems he's still in pain. And Crush and Farouk proceed to crush the British Bulldog, and they just give it to him. They pause. They pummel him like crazy. And Owen Hart is there looking at his partner getting beat up and still hurt, quote unquote hurt. And after British Bulldog gets beat up, after they're done beating him up, he gets out of the ring and looks at his partner and goes, "Where the heck were you? Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh man, I'm hurt. I'm sorry, my leg." And it's funny to see Owen Hart. He was so good. You couldn't tell if he was really hurt or if he was just joking around and didn't want to get in the ring because he probably thought he was going to get beat up as well. So, it's just, I guess it's just building slower and slower, building animosity between these two brother-in-laws and two tag champions. It's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with them at the next pay-per-view, who they're going to face for their tag titles, and if they'll lose them, because there's slowly becoming dissension between the two. After that, we have the main event of the match of this Thursday, the one and only Thursday Raw Thursday episode of 1997, between Bret Hart and Vader. And Vader is a monster. He's been booked as a monster. Besides losing to Shawn Michaels in the SummerSlam the year before, he's been basically booked as a monster. Bret Hart is one of the top guys in the company and will continue to be one of the top guys in the company moving forward, the way it's looking right now. And he goes against Vader, and they have a very good match. The way Vader punches is very tough. The way Bret punches, it just seemed this was a very rough, strong style type match. You want to talk about king of strong style? Vader probably invented strong style, to be honest. The way he fought was so rough, and only real tough guys like Bret Hart could really take him in a match like this and make it look legitimate. So while the match is going on, you forget that Bret, pissed Stone Cold off earlier, and Stone Cold, he is not really having that. So he comes out and fucks Bret up pretty badly and puts Bret back into the ring. After that happens, Vader starts to beat him up a little bit, but then Bret starts to make his little comeback. After the comeback happens, Stone Cold decides to show up not once, but one more time, and this time in the crowd. And he's up on the crowd yelling at Bret and distracting him again. After he distracts him, that's all Vader needs to take Bret down. After this, he goes for his patented Vader bomb finisher off the second turnbuckle. But Vader is one of the rare big men of the WWE that is very athletic and very agile, especially back in the late 90s. You didn't really see big men doing agile things, but Vader was very agile for his size. And he proceeded to try to do a moonsault instead of his patented Vader bomb. And he missed the moonsault, but it's still crazy to see a 400-pound guy flip backwards in the air off the top rope. But he did that. He missed, and Bret rolled out of the way and pinned Vader 1, 2, 3 after this missed moonsault. So it was disappointing to see Vader miss the moonsault, but Bret got his victory, even with Stone Cold interfering both times. And after that happened, Bret and Stone Cold ended the show with their verbal sparring, while Stone Cold was in the crowd looking like he was going to jump off the roof. Or he was on the second balcony, and he looked like he was going to jump down just to beat up Bret. And their feud is just heating up more and more, and it's just getting more and more fierce and fierce as these months go on, because it was already fierce to begin with. And the promos that they're cutting on each other, and the severity and the realness of their rivalry, of their blood feud, is just going to culminate eventually. I'm not sure where it's going to culminate. Wink, wink. But it will culminate. And wherever it does, I'm sure it'll be an amazing match. So look out for Bret Hart and Stone Cold in the future on this Heartbreak, what is it? Heartbreak Time Machine segment. I'm just joking. I knew exactly what it was. So that's the end of the show. I don't think I have, I've talked for a very long time, so I don't think I have time to go into the mailbag today and answer any emails that any of you have sent me. I appreciate it. I read a couple today. I appreciate you guys sending me emails. Again, if you do want to send me emails, it is at heartbreak@post.com. That is heartbreak@post.com. Send me your emails, your comments, any questions you have for me or my show. I appreciate you guys listening again. As always, it's always great to hear from you guys, and I really do appreciate you listening. This show is slowly getting wheels, and I really appreciate that. And hopefully I can continue to add segments to the show that are very unique and that are very different from other podcasts that you do hear. Again, I think I bring a unique perspective to the table, but I'm not going to sit here and try to promote myself. My show will promote itself with how great it's going to be. So I appreciate you all listening. This was, again, the Heartbreak Heel Turn. This was your lovely host, Heartbreak, or Dr. Heartbreak if you want to be formal. And I will see you guys soon. Positive vibes only. Peace out.